The same way.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 17th City Council meeting. I call the meeting to order. We have some very special guests tonight who are going to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would Alana and Zoe come forward? There they are. I just couldn't see them. And would everybody please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, I have some questions for both of you, and I'm going to start with something different than I told you I was going to start with. Who brought you here tonight?
Our Father.
Speak up a little bit. Come.
Our Father.
And point at him. Yeah, okay. All right, good, good. And where does your father work?
City of Stillwater.
Okay.
Waste Management.
Very good, very good. Okay. Thank you for bringing them, Dad. Now, Alana and Zoe, where do you go to school?
Richmond Elementary.
Okay, pull that microphone down just a little bit. There we go. Now say it one more time.
Richmond Elementary.
And what grade are you in?
Second.
Second grade.
Fourth.
Second and fourth. So Alana, you're in second, Zoe, you're in fourth. And you told me you both have similar interest. You both have favorite subjects in school. I'll start with Zoe this time. Zoe, what's your favorite subjects?
Math, science, and reading.
Yeah, what else is there, really, right? Right. That's great. And Alana, you had some favorites also.
My favorite.
Speak up.
My favorite subject is math and science.
Like big sister, so that is great. That makes us very proud. And let's see. What do you do after school?
Karate.
Karate?
Gymnastics.
Karate and gymnastics, okay. And here's my last question to you. What do you want to be when you grow up?
A psychiatrist.
Right there, psychiatrist and
A vet.
Dad, you got some big college bills. And I have no doubt after speaking with both of them that they will be a psychiatrist and a vet, and that makes us very proud. Counselors, do you have any questions?
Thanks for coming.
Okay, I will come down there and we'll take a picture. And what? And we have a few proclamations, so while I'm down here, I will start. Is Shannon here for child abuse? I did not do that. Did I? I don't think I did. Okay. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a complex and ongoing problem in our society, affecting many children in our community. And whereas every child is entitled to be loved, cared for, nurtured, feel secure, and be free from verbal, sexual, emotional, and physical abuse and neglect. And whereas it is the responsibility of every adult who comes in contact with the child to protect that child's inalienable right to a safe and nurturing childhood. And whereas Stillwater has dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to counter the problem of child maltreatment and to help parents obtain the assistance they need. And whereas our communities are stronger when all citizens become aware of child maltreatment prevention and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of the partnerships among families, social service agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas all citizens, community agencies, faith organizations, and businesses will work to increase their effort to support families. Now, therefore, I, Gina Noble, do hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month in Stillwater. Okay, thank you for what you do. Let's take the picture.
Thanks for doing this twice. Okay. Is this one? Okay.
Okay, and would the Price family please come forward? Whereas Walter Price and his family moved to Stillwater in 1965 upon his assignment as a professor of military science at Oklahoma State University, and made Stillwater their permanent home after his final combat assignment in Vietnam and retirement from the Army in 1970. And whereas Walter served the city with distinction as a city commissioner, at which time the commission addressed critical issues including the construction of the Call Water Line and the creation of the Stillwater Utility Authority. And whereas Walter was a co-founder of the Stillwater Humane Society and executive director of Downtown Unlimited. And whereas Walter was the consummate man of action, always there to assist his community, his church, schools, organizations, and anyone in need. And whereas Walter was recognized community-wide as a patriot and advocate for veterans. And whereas words such as integrity, loyalty, dedication, and compassion only begin to describe Walter. And whereas it is both fitting and appropriate that Walter Price be honored by the mayor and the city council. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Gina Noble, mayor of the city of Stillwater, do hereby proclaim April 17th, 2017 as Walter Price Day in the city of Stillwater, Oklahoma, and hereby recognize and thank Walter Price, a true American hero, for his citizenship and countless contributions to the city of Stillwater.
I'd just like to thank the council for doing this on behalf of Dad, and I'll just share a very quick story. Many of you may know that the last year of his life was not easy, and during that that illness, we spent a lot of time talking with him, and one of the questions that I'd ask him to kind of stir conversation is, and they had literally seen the world in their time in the Army. And I asked him, I said, of all the places you had been, what did you enjoy the most? Thinking it'd be some exotic location. Now, granted, some of those places they were shooting at him, but I, didn't necessarily know what he would say. And he said, "Oh, that's easy, without a doubt, Stillwater, Oklahoma." And I just thought that was very moving and a great testimony to this city from a really, really great man. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, that brings us to the consent docket. Counselors, does anyone wish to remove an item or clarify an item, or is there a motion? Well, actually, I want to remove an item, but I want to pull item A. And Mr. McNichol, would you explain item A a little bit better? And
I would like to pull item K.
so we're going to pull item A and item K. All right. Is there a motion, less item A and item K, to approve the consent docket?
Motion to approve less item A and item K.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket, less item A and item K. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, the consent docket, less item A and item K, is approved. That takes us to public comment on agenda items not scheduled for public hearing.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. These mine. Later. Okay, and I have a stack right here. And before we start, I would like to just read the rules for everybody. First of all, we appreciate the crowded audience and for you visiting tonight. And I would just like to remind you of the rules for public comment. Speakers are limited to speaking about a specific item on the agenda. Only those who signed up to speak will be recognized or allowed. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address the council. And when you come to the podium, please state your name and address. And please no clapping or cheering or anything like that. Let's give everybody the respect they deserve. So with that said, the first person is Carrie Kim.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Carrie Kim, and I'm the Curator of Education and Public Programming at the OSU Museum of Art. I also serve as a board member for the Oklahoma Art Education Association for the state of Oklahoma. Prior to coming...
And your address.
Oh, sorry. 2230 West 9th Avenue, Stillwater.
Thank you.
Yes. Prior to coming to OSU, I was a teacher for 15 years in both formal settings, such as K-12 and universities, and also in informal settings, much like the multi-arts. And I'm an alumni of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and as an undergraduate there, studying art education, I was lucky enough to participate in an organization called the UWM Craft Center, which is very much modeled according to what Rebecca Breenan has proposed for this community university partnership. So I would like to voice my support for the OSU managing of the Multi-Art Center, and would also like to talk a little bit about that UWM Craft Center. As an undergrad, as I mentioned, I participated in both classes, and I was lucky enough to get experience teaching in this facility, which had offered the same mediums and classes as the multi-arts. And then as I graduated, I stayed on as a community member and ended up taking my daughter there. They have a great outreach program. They were established in 1972 and have been running successfully for over 40 years. And I want to say that one thing that was really great is that it was always a great thing to see community members teaching there and in the classes alongside the university students. And it really brought in my idea about community arts and gave me my first kind of taste of what being a community arts organizer would look like, an art educator. And so again, I would like to voice my support for OSU in this matter. So,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jennifer Borland.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. I
Address?
am, yep, my name and address.
Yes.
Okay, Jennifer Borland. I live at 112 Windsor Drive in Stillwater, and I teach art history in the Department of Art at OSU, and I'm also a parent in Stillwater. And I would like to voice my support for the proposal from OSU. I think it's exciting to see the possibilities of a kind of collaboration between OSU and Stillwater. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker is Susan Chenberg. Did I get that correct? Okay.
My name is Susan Chinberg. I live at 103 South Orchard Street, and I've been in Stillwater about 22 years. And about that time, I've been taking classes on and off at Multi-Arts. I'm not on the board. I've just been a participant for many years. I have a PhD in a very technical field. I worked for Wiltel, helped network design and telecommunications analysis. But what Multi-Arts allowed me to do is come in and not even an amateur, come in and take art classes and weaving class. I took my first weaving class there, and it opened a world to me that I didn't even know existed. I've been a sewer and a weaver and a knitter all my life, but weaving? Unfortunately, my experience with OSU art faculty has been very condescending, very negative. I'm not an artist. I make no claims to be an artist. I'm a citizen. I pay my taxes here. And I love going to a place that I can walk in, and it's not even as a brand newbie, and take an art class, a painting, a drawing class, a weaving class, and have a new world open to me without having to compete or deal with the arrogance that I have run up against with professional artists. So we need to leave it with Multi. Have there been issues? Oh gosh, yes. Whenever you deal with a volunteer organization, you're going to have personalities and people involved. But my impression as an observer, these people are passionate about what they want to do. They're not out to get somebody. They're not out to kill or piss somebody off. It happens. I mean, if any of you have been involved with a volunteer organization, it happens. So my impression, please leave it in the hands of the citizens, because otherwise we're going to be shut out, or at least that's my big fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kirsten Fullerton.
Hi, it's Kirsten Fullerton.
Kirsten, sorry.
And I live at 1812 East Eastern Avenue in Stillwater. I am here speaking in favor of the OSU art faculty coming in and bringing this together. I have had the privilege of meeting and working with Dr. Brennan in several different organizations around town. I'm not associated with the university. I worked there for a brief period of time, and now I work somewhere else. I've also had the pleasure of befriending Dr. Borland and also Dr. Louise Siddons. I've ran in various organizations with her as well. I think they all really have the community at large at heart. I am a parent. I am a taxpayer. I've been in the Multi-Art Center. I am underwhelmed at this point with the organization and the lack of organization. I would like my child, I would like myself to be more involved with the arts community. I am also not an artist by any means. But I have been really had my eyes open when I've been talking to Dr. Brennan, and this is before this even came up as a possibility. She has 20 years of experience in art administration, and I've seen things where she's talked to me about safety protocols for arts and getting those involved at OSU, where things that lay people like me never think about. Very sharp objects for cutting, lighting fires to help forge, creating masterpieces. She really knows her stuff in terms of all the things that go in to creating a well-run program. She's also a taxpayer. They're all taxpayers. They live in Stillwater. They have children in the school systems, and they're very concerned about the way the art budgets are being cut. And I think they have some very creative and collaborative ideas of working with the school system, with the community, and with the university. And I know that working with the university and the town is always it's a little bit crazy. The town sometimes gets trampled on a little bit. I don't see it in any capacity happening in this relationship. I really feel that they are working towards the best interests of the town so that everyone becomes involved within the art scene. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Julie Couch.
Let's see, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, you can pull that down a little bit if that's easier. There you go.
I never will get used to this. I'm Julie Couch. I live at 901 South Gray. I have a statement to read. I am not an extemporaneous speaker. During the last year, Stillwater's spirit has been on the upswing, despite internet sales and American Airlines schedule changes. I've written about this for my news press column during the last year, but the two factors to me that have caused this upswing are the City Council's hiring of Norman McNichol and those Pegasus Group recommendations that no one liked. With Norman's hiring, the city government became more involved and open and responsive to citizen participation, and the citizens have responded. As far as the Pegasus Group, they caused many citizens to become aroused and involved in the city in order to make sure those recommendations were not enacted. As far as Stillwater Spirit, think of all the volunteers involved now. We have the new Stillwater Community Center Support Group, and I believe most of them are here tonight. And then we have the Friends of the Library getting ready for the book sale. Last Thursday, the Stillwater Community Center singers gave a wonderful performance, and Judy White's the director, and she's here. They even have fancy refreshments. So whether you like singing, you should go for the refreshments. Then go by Elite Repeat and see how many volunteers there are there and what wonderful things they do. And I have to speak for the Fair Lawn Cemetery Association. I know that's a little different from the rest I've mentioned, but I'm involved in that. And we just formed a Friends of Fair Lawn support group, and now we have over 100 members. And I could go on and on. But I've come to speak for another volunteer group, the Friends of Multi-Arts. They are another group on the upswing. Yes, they've had their bad years, and we've heard about that. They've had serious problems, but they made it through these difficult times. And during this last year, the board has made great strides. Just today, Norman told me they do not receive complaints like they used to receive. They are financially in good shape. They are planning their summer camp for children for June and July. The news press is providing them with column space. They recently interviewed a candidate for director. So I support the continuation of the Friends contract. I do so without hesitation. I've become familiar with their board meetings by attending them. They are organized and planning for the future. I'm almost finished. Even during their more difficult times, they have always had our citizens as their focus. They have always supported community involvement and community volunteers on the board and community members as teachers. I believe they are quite capable of providing a fine community-based arts and crafts center for people much younger than I am and people much older. And that means I'm middle-aged.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Couch. Our next speaker is Rebecca Brennan.
Can you hear me? Yes. Great. Good evening. I also have written down comments because I'm not really spontaneous. Good evening, members of the City Council and members of the Stillwater community. My name is Rebecca Brennan, and I live in Stillwater at 4802 South Wild Turkey Pass Drive. My husband and I have 3 daughters in the Stillwater Public Schools, and I have been head of the art department at OSU for the last 4 years and director of the School of Visual and Performing Arts since 2015. I've been an arts administrator for 10 years. I wish 20, but not quite there. But I've been a faculty member for almost 20. My background includes both studio art and art history. I became a member of the Friend of Multi-Arts in 2013, and my children have taken multiple classes at the facility, and they have assisted teachers as volunteers in the summer. My daughter's Girl Scout troop has also taken classes there, and I've actually taught one of those classes myself. The art department at OSU has been very supportive of the Friends of Multi-Arts by providing high-quality arts programming at the center. Since the fall of 2016, for example, we have offered 3 workshops, all of which have been free and open to the public because of a successful grant application. We've also been paying Multi-Arts about $1,000 a month for use of their darkroom twice a week. My students and I have been very respectful of the space and its equipment. The Multi-Arts is an incredible but underutilized facility. My vision for Multi-Arts is to make it one of the leading public art centers here in Oklahoma. And what I really love about working at Oklahoma State University is that it has that land grant mission, that we're expected to give back to Oklahoma, and I believe in that fervently. And I believe that this is really a wonderful opportunity for us to do just that. I'm fully committed to high-quality arts programs for children and for adults, and I pledge to build upon the successful programs already in place, whether we're talking about crafts or whether we're talking about fine arts. The idea is not to shut anyone out, but to build upon what is already there. My experience in arts education includes not only running the art department, but also running a highly successful summer art camp for teenagers at OSU. This is the 3rd year that we've had the Summer Art Academy, and we're raising funds to create scholarships for this camp. Last year, we were able to offer 11 tuition waivers to high school students here in Stillwater. And I would like to do this for children's classes in general, especially for underserved groups like children in our foster care system. If the city chooses OSU, I look forward to working with the members of the community, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we call you back up when we begin
Absolutely.
to discuss this? All right, thank you. Our next speaker is Russ Tubner.
Good evening. My name is Russ Tubner, 5717 Woodlake Drive. I too have written my comments just to keep them brief tonight. I'd like to comment on 2 matters coming before the council this evening. First of all, regarding Block 34. 2 weeks ago, city staff presented the outline of a plan for Block 34 that calls for it to become the social and cultural focal point for downtown and the city in general. At that meeting, I think Mayor Noble articulated extremely well a vision for Block 34 becoming our town square or our city center. I want to go on record as wholeheartedly affirming this vision and supporting the outline presented by staff. I believe it includes the right elements, such as open space, an outdoor amphitheater, and areas devoted for hospitality services and vendors. I also think it excludes the right elements, such as permanent structures for living accommodations and ordinary retail activities. We've all spent a great deal of time and energy studying and debating the future of Block 34. However, given the general consensus of the Council's vision, as well as the existing materials already developed by staff, I urge you to engage an architect to move the project forward to the next step. You're ready. Secondly, regarding the Multi-Arts Center, my perspective on this matter is influenced by my love for Stillwater, my focus on downtown, as well as being a member of the OSU Art Advisory Council. I've had the unique opportunity to watch firsthand how President Hargis' vision for the arts at OSU and in Stillwater has been translated into reality by talented leaders like Vicki Berry and Rebecca Breenan. I have reviewed the two proposals, and in my view, OSU's proposal is compelling. It is also consistent with their land grant mission of extending their resources and influence into our city and state. This consistency, in fact, gives me comfort that their plans to see the Multi-Arts Center grow and prosper is a very serious matter to them. Perhaps what I like most about OSU's proposal is the additional resources and synergy that it will bring to fostering downtown Stillwater as the arts and cultural center of our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Shirley Weeks.
I'm Shirley Weeks, 71 University Circle. I've come tonight to talk to you about children. Also children and art programming in our community. Back in the olden days, I was extremely active with 4 children. Their names were Robert, Stephen, Jennifer, and Derek Weeks. I am grateful that they grew up in a community and in a time that placed value on quality of life programming. We had a large, vital park and recreation department that focused on quality program for children and adults. We organized and operated a year-round program, all kinds of sports, youth, adults, indoors, outdoors, swimming for recreation, lessons for health and safety. We helped the senior citizen in the art program, and for a while we ran a senior transportation service. When you showed up at Park and Rec, they said, "How can we help you?" and let's get going. The park departments were run by the city of Stillwater. Their salaries were paid by the city of Stillwater. This is when public and privates were unknown, and we seemed to prosper. In the past, we thought art programming was so important, we built the building called the Multi-Arts Center to service the need of art. We defined priorities and moved forward. I support the Multi-Arts Center building being used for the purpose it was built for and financed for, and that was art programming for children and adults. I know the Friends of Multi have had some issues with the management of a small business, but they never ever veered from the goal of arts and crafts for children and adults. Any contract issued to manage Multi-Arts Center should include requirements for art programs for children and adults and details about this programming. It makes my heart sing when I walk into Multi and see the children's art on display. Or even better, the laughter of children as the feature music of the day. I thank you for listening, and I hope we keep moving forward for children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Joe Weaver.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. I just have to say this is a little strange, but bear with me if you don't mind. My name is Joe Weaver. I'm the Senior Vice President for Administration and Finance at OSU. I live at 3023 West Shiloh Creek Avenue here in Stillwater. I'm going to start by saying I appreciate your service to the community. I realize that you're donating your time and your efforts, and it's appreciated by this fella. So thank you very much. I know you got a long agenda. A lot of my comments have been stolen by the art faculty and the other folks like Russ Tubner, so there's no point in me repeating them. But from the OSU administrative point of view, I want you to know that we have no interest in the Multi-Art Center as being a facility that we just extend the art academic programs. If they needed more space, we would put it on the OSU campus where it could serve the students of OSU. We see this nothing more than an opportunity for us to serve the community. I'm proud of our faculty and staff for coming up here and talking to you about being community-minded. That's something we've worked very hard to do on our campus, President Hargis being the lead guy. This is what we should be doing. We can bring what we know from research and from instruction and put it into outreach and service for our community. Whether we're talking about elementary school children, the Ollie Lifelong Learning Center, or everybody that's in between. We have no intentions of doing anything but serving the community. And as Rebecca said, we'll be happy to answer any questions when you take this up on your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to items removed from the consent docket. We removed item A. Mr. McNichol, would you just go into a little bit more detail for me?
Yes, I had a visit a couple of weeks ago from a member of the Stillwater Community Center, Friends of the Stillwater Community Center, and it was a quite pleasant visit, and I wanted just to give you some brief details. They had a proposal that the city enter into cost sharing with the Friends to do some work at the community center for a $43,000 project. So our share would be over $20,000, $21,550 or something. And she said, but we don't expect you to pay that until the revenue that we expect to earn from doing this work increases to the point where you can pay that. And I think it is such a unique and innovative agreement that I wanted to explain that to you. And we're anxious for them to do the work and would recommend approval.
Okay, thank you for that.
And they are very anxious to do the work.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And Vice Mayor, you pulled item K? Would you?
I did pull item K, acceptance of the final replat of Lot 36, Block 1, and Lot 14, Block 2 of North Tower Park, Section 5. And this is related to water pressure and the inability to obtain the city limit of 40 psi because of the closeness to the water tower. I really don't like to go against what the Planning Commission has recommended, a unanimous approval, acceptance of the final replat. However, it just seems too reminiscent of what has happened in the southwest part of the city over the years. Growth happens on the fringes. There isn't enough infrastructure, and 10 years down the line, people are worried because their sprinklers are only doing 1 foot. So I would, and then it ends up to be a huge.
And then it's a cost to the city.
It's a huge cost to the city.
Cost.
So I wanted to vote on that separately.
Okay. So let's vote on item A. Is there a motion and a second for item A?
Motion to accept item A on the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept item A on the consent docket or approve it. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, item A is approved. Now we'll go to item K. Counselors, more discussion on item K? Or is there a motion?
Can we get some more information about the objection? I guess I'm not.
Well, it seems to be that the developer could put in a lift station or a
booster pump,
and would prefer not to, of course. And it will bring, without the booster pump, the water pressure will be 30 to 34?
32
PSI?
to 33, I think, is somewhere in that range,
Yeah.
yes.
And the city's expectation is that water pressure will be 40 PSI. It's only 12 houses now, or the potential for 12 houses now. But when the Southwest was doing this same type of process, it was probably only 12 houses, and then it was 200, and now we have Water 2040 at great expense to all of the citizens of Stillwater.
What was the Planning Commission's discussion on this?
Mike Beatty was there. I watched it. They had a great deal of concern that there would be private service lines, and most of the discussion, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of centered around those service lines.
Yes, it was not an ideal solution for anything, but it was a way that they thought they could allow that use of that property to continue, or to be able to be developed.
So does staff have an opinion on why this would be allowed to fall underneath the city's general water pressure guidelines?
The code requires that with the development, the improvements for a subdivision include extension of the water line. The 40 PSI requirement applies to new water lines. The action by the Planning Commission, or the request that they considered, was to waive that particular requirement, which code does allow them to do, for a public water line extension. In lieu of that, they would provide private easements and private services to the existing water line in the area. And so that seemed a way to allow them to develop without being a violation of the code. The addition of the 12 houses won't affect measurably any pressure by anybody in the area. It's not measurable. It's not going to be, they're going to be able to tell that they're connected. Obviously, they're not going to be at the 40 PSI. So the request was to allow the developer to develop the plat that was started before the 40 PSI restriction was in place. They had a preliminary plat that showed the area developed. This particular plat as a commercial area. They downzoned it to residential development a few months ago, and then proceeded with subdividing it for single-family residential. So it seemed as a way to allow them to continue the development with a development that had been started before the restrictions were put in place. The 35 PSI or 33 PSI meets the DEQ requirements and the conditions of the plat when it started. So
why the replat? Why is it being replatted? If you're saying it was
originally a commercial plat.
Okay.
And it was one large lot, so it could have been a retail center, a restaurant, something that would fit with that commercial development.
This might be a question for the city attorney, but what's the effect of a no vote on this item?
In this instance, you would be denying acceptance of the plat and the dedication of the public infrastructure and easements that come with it.
Does that cause great problems for the developer, or do they get to come back and try to
They can come back as many times as they want.
And if you have questions, the developer's engineer is here as well.
Well, if the concern is if more development happens and the water pressure changes, what are the next steps if the next development occurs? What happens?
Well, I think the added connections aren't, again, going to be noticeable. It would take several hundred connections for it to be noticeable. So this development's not going to have an impact on that. It just doesn't meet our current standard. And part of we want to make sure that when people look for water pressure that is there and that's usable. And this is one of the areas on the high part. It's close to the water tower. There's not a lot of available pressure there. There's enough flow there. There's enough volume of water, but there just doesn't have enough ump to get it through the system. And so from the city standpoint, allowing more connections is just going to allow more frustration on the part of our customers. But the water's safe.
I have no doubt about the safety of the water, and I just think, if you chose 40 PSI as a standard, that's the standard, unless you just flipped a coin. And otherwise, you would have picked 35, which is the DEQ requirement. And so 40, there must be a reason for 40.
I just want to, I'm sure the same discussion happened a long time ago on the southwest side around here where they said, well, it's not really going to affect anyone, but it affected people later on, and I don't want to kick the can down the road for another city council to have to do this.
Thanks. I'm Bill Millis, Water Resources Director. I can address your question about the 40 PSI was selected because through our history with customers, we know obviously there's a spectrum of what customers' expectations are, but 40 PSI was kind of a balance point between meeting the expectations. It's considerably higher than the DEQ minimum, but it's also quite a bit lower than what you might experience in this part of town, here where the pressure might be 60 or 70 pounds. So trying to balance customer expectations and meet them to the greatest extent we can with also promoting development. That's how the 40 PSI was selected. The reason that in this scenario, 25 in the DEQ minimum is acceptable is because there's not an extension of the water main. It's the design and construction standards which kick in when a developer is building infrastructure that sets the bar at 40 PSI. But in this scenario, if they're not building any water infrastructure, the design standards don't come into play, and so the DEQ minimum is the minimum acceptable.
How much money would this save the developer if he or she did not have to build a pump station? Is that what you said?
Well, it would be, there's kind of a two parts to that, or two parts to the answer to that question. One, their actual request was to not have to construct the water line. And so there'd be cost of construction of the water line, which I don't know whether it costs the developer's engineer can answer that. But if they did build that water line, it doesn't meet standards. So to get the water line to meet standards, they would have to build a pump station to increase the pressure for either build one just for their new development or to work with the city and build one to serve a wider area. But as far as what the developer's engineer would have to tell you what it would cost, because we haven't done the engineering or the cost estimating to pick a precise cost or even an estimate.
Okay.
At the planning, Kelly Harris is here. At the planning council meeting, she indicated a $250,000 cost.
And, I don't want to quibble about what the cost of the developer is. I just think that if, we're used to, if customers' expectations are around 40 PSI, when they have 25 PSI, the second generation of homeowners there are going to say, what the heck? And the third generation. It's the first generation. Excuse me?
It's the first generation. Sometimes they don't know what to expect until they move in.
That's right.
We honestly get complaints from people in that existing neighborhood because they're just not satisfied with the pressure.
Mm-hmm. So I don't see why we exacerbate this type of an infrastructure problem, which then is floated to the rest of the city, the rest of the citizens.
Taxpayers.
That's why I pulled it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, you convinced me. Motion to deny.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny this, to deny item K. Please vote. Before we vote, if you vote
yes,
you're voting
to deny.
To deny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, item K is denied. That brings us to public hearings. Item A, receive public comment regarding a request from Bobby and Joyce Douglas for a specific use permit for food services in the office district. That is postponed. Even had a note. Item A is postponed.
May 15th is the recommended date. Mhm.
Is there a motion to push this to May 15th?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to move item A to May 15th. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, item A is moved to May 15th. That brings us to item B, receive public comment regarding a request from Stillwater Medical Center for closing a portion of a general utility easement at 1201 West 6th Avenue, CC-17-54. Mr. Dorman, did we have good notice on this item? Yes, ma'am. Mr. McNichol.
And Michael Beatty has a report.
Mike Beatty. This closing is for a easement off of 6th Street, just west of Monroe. It's along the old Adams Street right-of-way that was closed some time ago. The area in question is this hatched area, just at the very northwest corner. The medical center is expanding the cancer facility here, and they're proposing to use the area for a calming garden for some of the patients to just rest. They got to build a retaining wall there to kind of cut off the noise and sounds. This is a view of the area before the current construction. Looks a lot different now, but you can kind of see the area in question. The easement vacation is here along the sidewalk portion. The building is going to extend out to the east in this shaded area. There are no utilities in the area. The right-of-way's already been shut off for access to 6th Street. Any questions?
Councilors, questions? Okay, at this time, I will open it up for a public hearing. We have one speaker, Mr. Roger Gose.
Stephen, I believe.
Oh, Stephen Gose. I'm sorry, Stephen. Same last name, right?
Yes. Stephen Gose with Gose and Associates, 113 East 8th. Just here representing the applicant. If you all have any questions, staff report covered everything. There's no utilities there. We've worked with Stillwater Electric. You'll see the south end of that's kind of funny looking to take into account transformers and junction boxes. So.
Councilors, any questions?
No.
Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing and ask Mike to come back.
Staff recommends approval of the request.
Questions at this time, councilors?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve CC-17-54. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, CC-17-54 is approved. That takes us to item C, receive public comment regarding a request for closing of the north 120 feet of the right-of-way of Duncan Street adjacent to properties addressed at 821 North Duncan Street, 823 North Duncan Street, and 821 North Husband Street, CC-17-53. Mr. Dorman, did we have good notice on this item?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. McNichol.
And Mr. Beatty will have that request as well, or that report as well.
Thank you. This closing is the north part of Duncan Street next to the Church of Christ there, just north of McElroy and east of Duck Street. See the hatched area. The church owns currently property on all sides of it, and so the utilities there are no utilities there in the right-of-way, just a closure to help consolidate the property. There's a view standing at the edge of the portion to be vacated to the north. See their parking lot at the northern edge. Any questions?
Councilors?
Mayor, if I may, because I think we have somebody here that's interested in it. Could you go back to the first map, Mike, and show which portion of the street, if you, with the cursor or something, is going to actually be closed? It's not the whole street.
No, it's just this black hatched area. The church owns this property, this parking lot, and that parking lot, so they're proposing closing it from here to the north, just that small rectangular area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing. We have one speaker, Stephen Gose.
Stephen Gose, Gose & Associates, 113 East 8th, just here to answer any questions that may come up.
Thank you. We have two speakers, actually. The second speaker is Elizabeth Doyle.
Hi. Can you pop them back up again?
What would you like?
Pop that back up so it can be seen.
Okay. There you go.
Okay.
And could you...
My name is Elizabeth Doyle. My property is right here. This is where I'm at.
And your property, could you say the address?
220 West McElroy. And they use the comment, just a little triangle. What that effectively does is blocks Duncan, so that there's one exit coming down this way. My late husband had property on Crayler when the tornado hit it, and there was one exit. People panicked. There were wrecked cars. There was a lot of injuries. Tornadoes have gone over this area before. I don't care if it's the people in the church, the people in the apartments, or who it is, to give one exit. If you want to see what this is like, you should have been there Sunday morning when they cut loose with church around noon. Traffic backed up, running in and out, and people at that time were going out down here on Duncan, over here on Duck, through the parking lot and over here onto Husband, and out here onto Duck on two different places. And there was still a lot of congestion. If you all close this, you all are asking for a disaster to happen. Either if there's anything, a fire, a tornado, anything, there's going to be loss of life, because you have blocked off a huge population here and given them one exit. And this is an apartment complex here. These are individual houses. And if you want to see what it's like, delay this vote and go there next Sunday about 11:45 and watch all the traffic piling out of there. And they'll be going out three places on Duck, one place on to Husband, going down Duncan, and it's bumper to bumper all the way. And if you close that off and everybody comes this way, it's going to be a nightmare and terribly unsafe.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, is there a staff recommendation?
Staff recommended approval of the request.
Okay. Councilors, questions?
Yeah, actually, I have one. So if we can pop that graphic back up, Mike, please.
Yes.
So if we close that plot right there that's hashed in the black, we're not actually closing any of the exits, though, correct?
No, all we're doing is releasing the right-of-way. There's not going to be physical closure. They still have to maintain fire access around the building, and any type of site improvements or building improvements would require to go through our CBR process, where we would look at site accessibility, emergency access, all through that area. This is just a way for them to consolidate that, maybe do some planning, and there may be something in the future. I don't know what that is, But any changes to this would require that go through our review process and we make sure all the building codes, the safety codes, which include access, are still met.
Sure.
So it's difficult to tell from the picture, but is that just people leaving those parking lots would be coming out that direction, or is that an access that people in the apartments can use to come around behind, or are those connected to other?
Yeah, there's cross connections here with the apartments that come around. There's a connection out on Husband down to McElroy. There's a connection here over to Duck. So there's a lot of circulation on that campus, if you will, already. And any type of change would require we maintain that, not necessarily the exact same, but we'd want to maintain circulation for emergency purposes.
Those run through property owned by the church already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything in red, outlined in red, is owned by the church already.
So we're not allowing them to shut that street down. We're just removing our right-of-way to use it for electric use.
Yeah, there's nothing, they already own on each side of it. It's already a dead-end road, but they can't just shut down emergency access. They've got to maintain that for fire codes.
Okay. Mr. Dorman, I forgot to close the public hearing, so I'm closing it now. Sorry. And counselors, discussion or motion?
I think safety is an important issue, and I'm okay with the requirements that are in place if they were to make any changes. And this is not about changes or changing access necessarily.
Is that a motion?
That's a discussion. I could make it a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept CC-17-53. Please vote. A vote of 5-0. CC-17-53 is approved. That moves us to item D, receive public comment regarding project selection for the 2017 Community Development Block Grant, CC-17-56. Mr. Dorman, did we have good notice on this item? Yes, ma'am. Mr. McNichol.
Valerie Silvers, our grants coordinator, will provide that report.
Good evening. I'm Valerie Silvers, the grants coordinator for the City of Stillwater. And we are here tonight to get a project for our 2017 CDBG grant. After lots of public hearings and radio broadcasts and press releases and all sorts of stuff, we had a lot of people respond. We had probably 40 projects mentioned and talked about. And tonight, we still don't have a finalized amount, but right now our preliminary, and it will not be less than this, is $97,550, making the full amount with the match $195,100. This is a summarized version of a lot of the stuff that we had. We had many, many things proposed. Some of those are kind of together, like we had streets in various parts of the town, or we had other things that are kind of put together as far as like playground improvements and things like that. Like I say, we had a lot of response. I don't know that I need to read all this for you. Some of this stuff was, we had lots of people come to the meetings for the community center. We had some for the public library, lake pavilions, a very big variety. The ones in blue are the ones that are eligible projects. They have identified match and they're pretty much ready to go. So I want to look closer at those. We have cost estimates for those. The first one we can talk about is the ADA accessible sidewalks. This is kind of a detour for pedestrian, bike, and others means of transportation around the main 6th Avenue and Perkins Road. We wanted to get this in place before that intersection went under construction, but obviously that didn't happen. It's estimated to be about $450,780. And then the second one is the Strickland Park improvements. This would include the playground and skate park improvements in that area. It's estimated to be about $360,000. And then the third project is water lines that are a part of the hospital Phase 2 projects, and there's about 8 residential blocks there. All of these would identify with low income and or the whole city, basically. So they fit well in the parameters of the grant. This first one, the ADA sidewalks, this is Perkins Road right here, and this is 12th Avenue. So this one would begin here and go down 12th, would encompass the alternative school, and then it goes up Lewis, so it would connect to restaurants, services, police, utilities, all sorts of things that way. And then it keeps going on to 3rd Avenue, where it then crosses Perkins Road and gives access to medical care, goes on to Burdick, and then north is the main plan to Virginia, which would then connect them to the other retail outlets with Walmart in that area. There's also some area down here that is proposed, but that is not included as a first option. We just kind of wanted to do that first one. And then this is the second project that we'd like to look at, and this one encompasses both play area and expansion to the skate park. We've had a lot of interest from the public on this. Many people have asked for a bigger and nicer skate park, and then Parks Department tells me that this playground is actually unsafe, and it's been in place since 2005. It's the most used park in Stillwater. So this is a project that's very high priority to the citizens and to the Parks Department. And then finally, we have water lines, and this is a map of the area, which is by those. The red hash marks are the area that'll be abandoned. The teal that's right next, it's literally across the street, will be the new water lines. And those are old iron water lines, and this area is a kind of a lower income area of Stillwater. This is 9th Avenue, and this is Jefferson and Monroe, or vice versa, Monroe and Jefferson, sorry. So our estimated cost right now, all of these projects exceed the amount of the grant and the required 1-to-1 match. That would be like around $200,000. They all exceed that. The least priced one is our park improvements at Strickland. So I just used that figure to kind of compare to. But I will tell you that I really hoped that we'd have the final figures tonight, but they are not out yet. So since I've been here, it's always been more, sometimes a lot more, sometimes not that much. I averaged the last 5 years of our allocation just to give you an idea of kind of how it goes up. And the average that we get over the past 5 years is about just under $140,000. So that's a $280,000 project pretty easily. We had $188,000 last year, but that's very uncommon. So, do you guys have questions? Can I answer questions for you?
I just wonder, Valerie, when you turn in your project, is there a criteria that they choose projects on to fund, or is it just whatever you turn in?
No, when I turn it in, as long as it's an eligible project, it meets the criteria of the grant, then they don't question it.
Okay. So one of the 3 projects would not have a higher appeal?
Not to them, no.
Okay.
It's up to you what has the higher appeal.
And when can we expect to have the final numbers on this? You said
Any day now.
Any
I
day.
think because the 15th was in the weekend, is probably why I don't have them right now. I expect them any day.
Okay.
And we didn't do a resolution to go along with this like we sometimes do because we didn't have those final figures. Plus, we're not sure which project you'd like to have, so.
Can we vote on this at a later date?
Yes. Purpose tonight is simply to receive public input.
Okay. Okay, so we do have one speaker, so I'm going.
Oh, okay.
Counselors, do you have any questions at this point? Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing. This is Rod.
That's not it.
No?
That's budget.
Okay. And then I'm going to close the public hearing. A lot of paperwork up here.
That was a quick speaker.
So, counselors, questions for Valerie, discussion?
Well, I just would ask, I mean, what we have in the packet has a recommendation on which of these projects.
And
to
that's
take.
next, after the
Okay.
public hearing. I can click that slide. I do have a recommendation, and I'm happy to tell you why, or any questions that you have about that. But I do recommend Strickland Park as the project. For one thing, it's closer to the amount of the grant. For another, the Parks Department's been saving money and working on getting this together because it is a project the citizens would like to see happen. And so they have worked hard to get that match money that's required. So, and it's visible. People can see what's happening, and they can see it as something positive too.
Okay. Thank you, Valerie.
You're welcome.
Is there, I mean, when you talked about the Parks Department saving for this, I mean, I know one of our budgets the last couple of years had money in it for the skate park. I'm sure that got used other places.
No, actually, I believe that's where the match is coming from.
Okay, that's where the match to this grant will be coming out of.
Mhm.
It's coming from the parks, yes.
And then the additional money we'd have to come up with, right? Because if we don't get the full three.
And our chief financial officer over there has worked very hard to make that happen. She's
Got that in your purse? Okay. Just wondering.
Okay.
Great projects. I wish we could do them all.
Yeah, I mean, I really
Yeah.
want to do them all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, it seems very difficult.
Some
to
year
just
we'll
one of
do
those.
them all.
And you do have options. I mean, you want me to give you the options to vote on it, or are you good? Okay.
Do we want to vote tonight? Do we want to just wait?
Well, it'd be nice to know how much we're getting
Right.
before we make a final
Right.
decision on where that money's going.
Mhm.
Would be my 2 cents on the deal. But
I might say one thing, that I don't anticipate it will be more than any of the projects with the one-to-one match even, because it 280,000, they're all more than that. And I wouldn't guess there'd be much more than that as far as funding. So, if that helps.
If we wait until the next council meeting to vote, does that put you behind?
No, not necessarily, because, well, it does in a little bit in that I have to wait 2 more weeks to see the minutes, as that has to go in with the application. The resolution I can get at that point 2 weeks later, or whenever that May meeting is, and then I can submit. So it just puts it a couple of weeks off, but it's okay. If you guys want to do that, that's fine.
Okay.
It's probably a better idea to wait as well, because you'll have an exact number
Mhm.
which the grant thing would be based on. And the granting entity may want to see exactly what it is that you're authorizing.
Okay, so do we vote, or do we say we need to put this on another?
We don't have to do anything.
Okay.
We'll,
All right, let's
we'll
move-
bring it back to you May 1st.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Valerie.
You're welcome.
That brings us to item E, receive public comment regarding the proposed City of Stillwater operating budget for fiscal year 2017-18. Mr. Dorman, did we have good notice on this item?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. McNichol?
You received a report last week, I'm sorry, a couple of weeks ago, on preliminary budget and our recommendation. And this is the public hearing where the public gets input. So if you have questions of our CFO, Melissa Ream, she's here and prepared. Otherwise, we have a public hearing to hear input from the public.
We could save a little money if we turned the air conditioning down.
Freezing.
There's a hint, Patty.
Yes.
All right, we make the electricity anyway, don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah, it's cut off your nose.
Okay, so counselors, anything, or should I will open the public hearing, and then I will call Roger Coase.
Roger Gose, 1120 East Connell. Well, that fine print in the paper is sure fun to read. I've got a few questions about it. There's a stormwater fee expense, and the expense exceeds, no, the expense is less than the revenue. So would that make the fee a tax because it's a fee that's not really covering everything? Or do you have other projects that aren't in there at that 248,886?
Melissa's shaking her head yes, that there are other projects in there.
No.
There will be other projects
Okay.
as we go along. This is what was identified at this point in time. And that is a revolving fund so that it will carry forward any unspent balance to future years.
Okay, is there a way we can spend a little more? Is that somewhere in the paperwork?
Probably not in what I have published, but I can definitely get that for you.
Okay. Transportation has $502,477 of general fund expense and a transportation fee of $75,995. Is that the, what is that for?
Are you looking in the general fund? I can't see from here.
Yeah, I couldn't see it right here.
No offense.
It's in what was published.
Okay. Transportation fee is probably from development services. And if you're looking for the half-cent sales tax, you're going to have to look at another spot.
Well, I understand that, but there was a transfer fee in here also. Some of these transfers in and out. It's just, my whole beef is transportation. I want to see roads fixed. I'm just trying to figure out where the money is and if we can find any more. That's so.
We would like to have a lot more in there, Roger.
Well, I know that. You and I talked about that. Operations, $3,152,000. Does that include the pothole patching, the street maintenance?
Sidewalk maintenance, yes.
The budget has no capital except a half-cent sales tax. 2015 to 2016, the city added 18 lane miles of streets, but no more money. You know, the oil needs to get changed in the car, and the tires need to be changed once in a while. You need to keep putting money in to take care of these improvements that you get. And probably most of that 18 miles, well, not all of it. A lot of it was Jardo, and some of that was out of tax money. But a lot of it is in developments, and it's given to the city. Staffing in fiscal year 16 was at 590. I don't know what it is now. I didn't see that number yet. It's in every budget in the front page. One of the tables I found that I think is pretty telling is these are the 2 years just before we extended sales tax for the roads. And I dug all day long, but over here in these previous years, you'll find the same phenomenon where the council, the city, put more capital money into there, and then when we're selling the sales tax, we say, well, you know, we're matching. This, you know, there's this much capital funds, and if we have this much road funds, then we can do $8 or $9 million a year. It seems like it always drops off, just like this, right after the sales tax. So,
As did sales tax.
there's other things that didn't. We'll go into that later. Did you distribute Mr. Buchanan's email?
I did. Melissa has
Good.
either has answers or is looking for them.
I'm not going to put you all through that then. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And I would like to say, when we presented this budget, we made absolute, that there is no capital in this budget. It's not sustainable. That's what we told you at the time, with the exception of the half-cent sales tax, which will go to roads, and that's what it's dedicated for. We wish it were more. We're working with the legislature as hard as we can to try to get some relief in a couple of areas that we think that would improve our revenues. So I would tell you that staff is just as distressed as Mr. Ghost that we don't have that additional money to put into streets. And if we hit a pot at the end of the rainbow, that will be the first thing we're in here asking you to do, is to increase the budget for more street work.
Thank you, Mr. McNichol. So I will now close the public hearing and ask staff if there's a recommendation.
Just a hearing tonight.
Just a hearing, so we can just move on.
Move on if you
Okay, we're moving on.
We have, how many more public hearings do we have to do on the budget?
This is it.
This is it? Okay. Well, if you have questions about the budget, it is difficult to read. As Mr. Ghost pointed out, it's taken all of us many
Melissa.
sessions with Melissa to understand what all the funds are and how all this money moves. It's because of municipal law, the way it's laid out the way it is. It doesn't look like any of our home budgets. But please take the time to look at it and ask questions about it. I mean, this is your money. So, take a look and let us know what you think. And unfortunately, the answer might just be, well, we wish we had more of it, which is sort of the answer at home, too, most of the time. But it is complicated, but please take a look and let us know if you have questions.
And along those lines, if I could, I would encourage people to take a look at the budgets in brief, because those are a lot more. Those are a lot easier to decipher, and there is two of those: one for the general fund and one for Stillwater Utilities Authority. And they don't have the transfers in and transfers out and all those things that the GFOA requires. And we'll talk more about that later.
People can call about questions, or they email any one of us. We know that people know how to email us now.
That's right.
And we will have another counselor office hours the 28th out at Meridian.
Technology Center, 11
At-
to 1,
Yeah.
11:30 to 1.
So lots of opportunity to ask questions. And
Okay, thank you. That moves us to general orders. Mr. McNichol, item A.
Charlotte Levern will be providing that report. I'm sorry, it's approval of professional service agreement for the final design and environmental clearance required for the North Perkins Road improvements from McElroy to Lakeview.
All right. So there are some confusing things about this proposal that you may have found in the report, but there's some pretty simplistic request here. So I'm going to try to simplify it for you, explain it to you, and answer any questions you may have. This is the project on North Perkins Road from McElroy to Lakeview, and this is to improve the safety of that corridor, primarily in terms of the left turning movements and reducing the number of accidents we have in that stretch of road. This particular request is for a budget amendment of $86,600, and we will provide to you provide to city staff a revised budget amendment should you agree to move this forward, and that would show that there was we will revise the current budget amount and then reflect the $86,600 that this budget amendment has, and have the new budget amount on there. So that will be corrected. But what the request is $86,600, and I'm going to break that down. The original design fee for this project, to take it from 0 to 60% design, was $339,952 or so. And that took us through 60%. That original contract was August 6, 2016. Then we had Amendment 1 for $40,000 on September 28, 2016. And that was for additional survey to look for tie-in opportunities to this project, scope changes possible to improve some drainage opportunities on the side streets, look at road improvements on the side streets, and do some multimodal tie-ins to this project. So we did some additional survey at that time, or that's what that request was back in September. Fiscal year 17, we had already estimated that taking this design from 60% to 100% ready for bidding and moving forward with ODOT to do the 100% construction would cost us $300,000, and that was in the design area. There's additional line items for the utilities relocation and the right-of-way acquisition. So there's some additional costs that you'll be seeing come down that way, but we have done our best to minimize those costs. So that is still coming in the future, and we have some estimates for that on our I guess, projection spreadsheet for financial estimates with the transportation sales tax. So we're tracking that very carefully, but this proposal is to take the design actually from the 60% to 100%. The contract amount is actually $346,596.22. We rounded that to $346,600. And then we already had the $260,000, so that's why we are asking for $86,600 at this time. So, very complicated. Hopefully that answers some of your questions up front, but I'm sure you'll have more. So the alternatives we present is, one, to appropriate that extra $86,600 from the Transportation Sales Tax Fund for the North Perkins Road Improvements Project, STPW22, and authorize expenditures up to $346,600, which that would include the $260,000 that we already have, plus the $86,600, for the North Perkins Road Improvement Project Professional Services Task Order 13, Amendment 2. Alternative 2 would be to put the project on hold. Alternative 3, terminate the project. Those are the alternatives presented at this time. And our recommendation would be Alternative 1. Are there any questions at this time?
Do we have it in the budget?
We have it in the budget. And I would just, at the end of the day, when this is all done, in return we get
a fully designed facility ready for construction. And then ODOT will proceed from there on 100% cost of the actual construction.
And that is estimated to be?
About $13 million.
Okay,
so.
Thank you.
Quite the bargain.
Well,
on our end.
And to be very clear, and I left a memo here for you, and thank you. They've added some value to that in that they will also overlay Richmond Road, or overlay Perkins Road from Richmond to McElroy, 6th Street. 6th Street. Isn't it?
Perkins, yeah, actually, it'll be
yeah,
a nice new road surface from Richmond to 6th.
Right.
So, as part of it, as well as the reconstruction portion that's from McElroy to Lakeview.
Safety is really important, and this, that's our, somewhere on Perkins Road, right around Redbud, is that the #1 accident site in town?
Yep,
So
that
we
area.
need-
Between McElroy and Lakeview is certainly.
It's high.
And we've all driven when you're going to Lowe's and you're trying to turn left. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Discussion.
So, I mean, like you said, heck of a bargain. Hard to say no to free money. As far as the estimated cost for utility relocation, what are those right now?
Yeah, I should have brought those numbers with me, but they're fairly low.
Not 13 million.
No. We're looking at, about $180,000 for, which one was that? That was the right-of-way, or that was a utility relocation. And the right-of-way acquisition, they're estimating, I believe, at $200,000. I'm sorry, I didn't look that up before I came here. I mean, we're looking at low costs. We worked really hard to have those costs lower for this project. So.
And all those funds are coming out of the transportation sales tax fund, correct?
Yes.
Not out of the general budget.
Correct.
Anything else?
No.
So do we want more discussion, or is there a motion?
Motion to accept recommendation.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation as alternative 1. CC-17-61, please vote. With a vote of 5-0, alternative 1 is approved. Thank you. That brings us to item B, consider proposals from the following for operation of the Multi-Arts Center. Mr. McNichol.
First presentation will be by Chairman of the Friends of the Multi-Arts Center, Mike Smullen.
Thank you. I'm Mike Smolin. I'm president of the Friends of Multi-Arts. I'd like to share a little handout with you. And to begin, some of our board members are here. I'd like to ask them to stand. We have most of the board members here. One person couldn't make it and another had the flu, so awesome. There we go. And there are others supporting us. I had the opportunity to visit with you not too long ago, so I'm not going to go through that entire presentation. I just have a few of the slides here as kind of a reminder. We've been operating this center for 5 years, and our mission is probably the number one thing that I want to present. Our mission is to engage the community, providing educational, creative, and crafts environment, art and crafts environment. And I'm stressing arts and crafts, and I'm stressing community. We are community-based. We are not any other entity. In the handout, and there are other copies out in the hallway, I believe, goes a little bit through the history of the Multi-Arts Center. It was called Multigraphis for many years. It was located in Couch Park, but it even goes back farther than that, to the 1970s, to an old drafty barn. I never had opportunity to experience that, but I did work at Multigraphis, and I've been involved with it for about 25 years now. It's been community-based, or it's been community-supported through that period. It was operated by the city until 2012, when we were asked, our Friends organization was asked to take it to operate it. This was the beginning of the Friends as a management group, and we've had our experience in the past 5 years, ups and downs, and I'm here to tell you that we're on an upswing. We have quite a large number of arts. Multi-Arts fits it quite well, the name fits very well. This is just an overview or a quick summary of what kind of things go on there. I'd like to stress some of the less formal types of art and craft. The fiber arts in particular are very popular, and our gallery is very popular. It draws on community artists, local artists, and provides a good source of revenue for the arts community in the city. I pointed this out last time. You've seen this slide before, but it has a little bit of an update to it. There we go. The numbers for this year are the final numbers. Last time they were just just, I believe, up to October. They're a little bit higher than they were last time, and the total net profit from the organization or from all our endeavors is higher than it was before. So the point to be made is that from our low point where we were on a negative income, we are now at the point of $30,000 income over the course of the year. We've projected a budget for the coming year, and this is our optimistic effort. We're hoping to get approval to continue our effort. This is the way we will operate if given the chance. Points that I'd like to just drive home here really are our membership is from the community. We have, the numbers vary between 120 and 150 or so. I think we may have reached 175 on occasion. We have a solid, cohesive, forward-thinking board. It's taken a lot of time to develop this. We started in a mode of micromanaging, and I think that's where a lot of our problems came from. Our philosophy is entirely different at this point. Our philosophy is to have the best possible executive director, to invest that person with the authority to do what he or she is asked to do, and to support that. The board then becomes a governing board rather than a working board. And this is entirely different from where we started. Our budget is stable. We have experience in our sales and our management of the facility. I think the last bullet on this page may have been a little bit misrepresented in a few places. We have always operated with the intent of meeting Open Records, Open Meeting Act's requirements, but we were only recently informed that we are absolutely supposed to do that, and we are committed to doing that. This is not something that's up for debate in our group at all. If we are given the opportunity to continue what we've started, we'll be doing a much larger effort in marketing and communication. This is probably our biggest failing in the last year, is that we have put all our effort into cleaning up our effort, making sure our books are correct, and getting all our policies enacted. And we've not done nearly enough marketing and communication. We draw on local people for teaching arts and crafts, and that includes the university community as well. And we hope to continue doing that. We coordinate with other groups. We partner to the extent possible, and I hope we'll continue to partner with OSU. We have in the past. We hope to do more. We hope to do it as partners. We are developing multiple lines of financial support. At this time, one of the biggest, of course, is the city support of $60,000 per year. And I know in this time of hard budget that even though it is a small amount in your total budget, I'm sure it's important. Well, it's extremely important to us also. And we intend to meet any audit requirements for our own purposes and for the city's purposes. My real message is that we've turned the corner on many areas. We've gone from deficit to profitability. We're on the brink of taking the MAC to its full potential as a community arts and crafts center. It can be much more active than it's been in the past. It can do a better job, and our commitment is to see that that happens. We are ready to hire a full-time director. We've had interviews. We've made a selection. We have a person with considerable experience in mind, our considerable experience. In fact, we had some excellent applicants. So we're not hurting for good quality management. And frankly, the only thing that's holding us back right now is the uncertainty of the future. We would have been farther along if we hadn't if we had just moved ahead with what we planned to do. We started looking for, searching for a new director last summer. We put it on hold from September until January, actually until February. And at that point, we made the decision to make the request to continue the management ourselves. We had been looking for partnership. That did not work out. We think we can do the job. We think we can do the job for the community, and we think that's what the community wants from us. Be glad to try to answer any questions. I have our interim executive director here who can help me.
Councilors, questions?
Yeah, just one quick question. What is the proposed salary for an executive director?
We have a salary range of $35,000 to $42,000.
Okay. But, I mean, if we could throw back up the graphic of the budget, at last count in 2016, we had a surplus of $29,000, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that puts us back in the hole $12,000 to $16,000, right? If we were to hire an executive director based on those numbers.
Actually, we had an interim director who was from the staff who got an increase. So in other words, the numbers aren't exactly what you're saying. There is a difference, however. Some of that is due to savings on executive director for approximately half a year.
Mm-hmm.
Just to follow up on that, I mean, you you made this point in your report earlier, prior this year, what was that? About getting profits back to profitability, right? Well, which is a good thing, but what I really noticed in that graph is declining revenue over the last 3 years, that it continues to drop. And the reason that you guys have maintained profitability or gotten back to profitability is that you've also cut your expenses, which to me is concerning given the sense that one, part of that's got to be due to the fact that you haven't been paying an executive director, and two, that means you're not offering as many services as you could be, or as you were, because to cut your expenses that much, you're losing something, right? And so this idea that it's now being operated profitably is somewhat, I'm not sure that's where we should be focusing, because what we want to see as a city and as a council is for the city's money that's being invested here to be multiplied in the community and for you all to be touching as many people as you can. Mm-hmm. And what I'm seeing is that the city's money is continuing to be invested at the same level, and you guys are actually making less and being able to do less with that money. That is a concern for me.
But I don't see why you say we're doing less. We're not actually doing less. First of all, we made better use of volunteers, and we intend to continue using volunteers. So that part isn't quite the right interpretation, I don't think. Basically, I agree with what you're saying entirely, and that is the plan. We intend to put more money into this. This is a $200,000 total. We were at 139, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's $30,000 more than you guys have ever made based on this chart. So I guess, I love the idea. I would love to see it happen. It's difficult for me to imagine how you guys are going to increase your budget $60-some thousand this year with just saying that you're going to focus on it now. There's no indication here about how you're going to get $30,000 more revenue than you've had in any of these prior 5 years.
The key here is
it's optimistic.
The key here is the multiple lines of financial support. To date, we've had membership and we've had tuition and sales, and that's been it. We have not really scratched the surface of donors and sponsors and grants. That's the biggest difference right there. In addition, the membership will probably rise. We're at $25 a year for membership. That's going to make a difference. We expect to get more members. The tuition also is probably a little low. In fact, it's very low. I expect that will come up some. We don't expect to abuse that.
Okay, but so now what I'm hearing is we need to make more money, and we're going to do that by raising fees, raising membership prices, and therefore making it less available for the people that we're hoping you can serve. And so
It's not a zero sum. We have more classes at better profit, at the profitability really refers to the spreadsheet, basically, that we use for designing the price. And we're operating that in a fairly strict fashion. It's not a seat of the pants judgment.
Sure.
We have a plan, we know what the overhead is, and it's built into each item that we do. The next thing is to market it better. We have not marketed, we've not scratched the surface on marketing. This is something I've been adamant about, but we haven't had the capacity to work on that.
I would agree. I mean, I think you wrote a column in the newspaper, right, that called this the best kept secret in Stillwater.
I did.
Which is, a little concerning, right? The city's invested $300,000 in the facility over the last 5 years, and for it to still be a secret, that's a problem.
And I think that's kind of my question,
yeah.
is tell us some specific ideas about how you're going to market it. What are some ways that you hope to get the word out?
Oh, man, yeah, you're stressing me on that one. I have had many ideas, but I don't have that worked out as a plan. This is the point of hiring the new director, in my opinion. But just scratching, I really don't want to go into the individual things that I've thought of, because the only thing that will happen that I know for sure are the things within the center. I've started, for one thing, for example, I have the column in the newspaper. I intend to be advertising along with that column in the newspaper. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I am the president. I am not the manager. And I do not intend to be the manager. I make lots of suggestions. Margie can attest to that. I depend on the manager, the director, to be doing that. And our new director will be the one who makes those decisions. But we have not scratched the surface on marketing.
I just, to follow up, Councilor Zanotti, I too am worried. This has been in place 5 years, and we certainly appreciate everything that's been done. But for you to promise on what you're going to do, we have thought that was all along what you were doing. You shouldn't be promising what your contract said you were already doing. And I'm really concerned about that.
Well, I don't know why you
At
say
$300,000. So that's just my take on it. More discussion or questions?
May
guess.
May I
No.
say something?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce, you talked about availability. We are only closed 7 days out of the entire year. By looking at the OSU proposal, they will only be open during the school semester. We are open 60 hours a week. You will be cutting 20 hours a week that they will be closed. We have people that show up at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night to come to Open Studio because they want somewhere to get away from work, to bring the children just to relax before they go home for the evening. And that's something that, looking at the other proposal, is not going to be available.
We'll ask OSU on that one.
Yeah, and I'm not comparing it to another proposal.
No, I'm
I'm
just letting
concerned.
you know, we are open we're only closed 7 days a year.
Yeah.
So
and
our availability for instructors, for people to come and join our center is there.
Sure. I'm not convinced that the facility being open makes it available to everyone in the community. But aside from that, my comment was really just based on the fact that you're declining revenues and you're declining expenses. The amount of money you guys are actually spending, to me, suggests that something's being cut. And, as a center like this, 72% of it is personnel expenses. And so, I don't know what else you're cutting. Supplies and that kind of thing. I have to assume that you're not being able to offer as much as you want. Now, being open all but 7 days a year is great, but, I'm not sure, is there an indication from your numbers that all the extra electricity that we pay for, that you guys, for that building to be open all those days, is actually generating extra revenue for you? Is that I mean, just having the doors open doesn't necessarily mean it's available for the public, right? I mean, people aren't just going to wander in, right? For this to be a community arts center, I mean, if it was just about opening the doors, we could stand the center open and leave it open 24/7 and just hope people went into it. My concern is that we, as a board, are supposed to be encouraging the community to use this facility, for there to be events, for there to be activities, for there to be things where people are coming in, okay? So I'm not super impressed by it being open, right? Open is easy. Unlock the doors. Events, activities, things that draw people to the facility are what I'm concerned about. And with declining revenues and declining spending, I have a concern that you're going to be able to continue to do that.
The connection with being open, though, I think is pretty serious. We have groups that meet there, and they meet there to have fun with crafts. The Society for Creative Anachronism is probably the best example of them all, but there are many other groups that can and do meet there, and the extra time makes a difference on that. Plus, we have the opportunity to hold more classes in that time. We're there in the evening. Personally, I never attended a class during the day except on a weekend. My evening, I love to go there on a Tuesday night to work for 2 hours. This is where I learned sculpture, was at Multi-Arts or Multigraphis. This is important. Sure. And the community focus, I think, is the one thing that I think we need to leave you with, is that we have no other objective whatsoever.
We share that objective.
We do share that objective.
And the community needs to know what's happening, which is part of the marketing plan.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
I would say I've worked in a number of volunteer organizations and how difficult it is to manage even this well. And you've done a great job of raising the passion of all the people who have been involved in multi-arts over the last years. So you did a good job on that. Did market that.
Okay, item 2 under item B is Oklahoma State University.
And Dr. Rebecca Brennan.
Or Joe Weaver.
Or Joe Weaver.
Since
Or
he
Joe.
stood up.
Or both.
At the risk of getting into a compare and contrast effort, our proposal is, as we submitted to you, I think the mission statement that was just thrown up there is a perfect mission statement. I think it's what the council intended. I know it was, when I was on the council, that was what we intended when we set up the partnership. Something that I would add that has been suggested, there is nothing in what we want to do that would bar artisan or arts and craft type activity from multi-arts. That's a part of serving the community. Sure, we'll bring in artists and other folks too that might be more formally trained, but we believe that we can generate more revenue. We can get grants from the state and federal government that the community might not otherwise be able to get, just as we've done with the Postal Plaza Art Museum. We've made that a regional arts center now, and we're bringing people in from all over the state, all over the country. And we've received grants from the state and from private citizens outside of Oklahoma as well as inside. And we think we can do that with multi-arts. What we think we bring to the table is the administrative capability and the financial capability to manage and run the place. Nothing we'd like better is to take the people that have passion for art or arts and crafts or whatever it might be that fits that mission and work together with them to deliver the program that was originally set up. I'll just stop with that and just answer any questions you might have. Or Rebecca Brennan's there to answer questions too.
Do you have operating hours established as of yet?
Well, the operating hours would be a minimum of 40, but the idea is that you would have, obviously, evening programs that would go later, so 40 hours in terms of having a staff in the front, but for those evening classes, I mean, I'm really thinking about the model of the Firehouse Center for the Arts in Norman, where they have their administrative staff doesn't stay there until 9:30 at night when the sculpture class or the ceramics class is being taught. But those instructors have the responsibility to lock up the facility.
As Counselor Joyce said earlier, it's not the number of hours, it's when people want to use the facility.
Right.
We're learning that as we go with the art museum. You don't need to be open every day if people aren't coming on Monday. Why
Right.
spend the money to run the facility? You set your hours to be the most efficient when you're generating the most traffic.
I mean, obviously, I'm very open to discussions about.
I think there's a big
About
concern
hours.
about community
Right.
involvement and all of that. What
And-
are your thoughts on that? Give us some ideas of how that's
Well,
going to, how that,
I mean, if the city chooses OSU, I mean, I'd really like to create an advisory board that'll include people from the library, from the public schools, people who are enthusiastic about art in the community, from OSU, from the business community, really to help provide input to discover new ways that we can really serve the community through the high-quality arts programming. Children's programming is of special interest for me, and I've already been talking with my colleagues in the College of Education, how we can create classes that are engaging but also meet state standards, state and national standards. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with a class being fun, but there also should be great learning outcomes for our students. And we know from research that if you take an at-risk youth and you introduce them to art, to paint, ceramics, music, their in-school performance actually improves.
And you're talking about our students being the multi-art students.
Yeah, I'm talking
not
about
the OSU
people,
students.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm really talking about the people in our community. So, my job at the university is different than this job, but it's complementary to it. And I would really like, my students from the university to come and to help out as studio monitors, to help support the facility. I mean, obviously, I already have students who are working at multi-arts, who are teaching classes, and who are, work study students, and, to expand upon that with a bit more oversight, because I'm also their department head, so they're going to show up.
I heard one more thing, and
yes.
then I'm along with the lines of I don't have an artistic bone in my body, and if I go to a program there, or when I go to a program there, and I just want to go enjoy it,
Right.
will there still be that sense of I just want to go and enjoy it? I don't necessarily want this to be a passion of mine for the rest of my. I mean, it's just an interest I have. Is
Right,
there
I mean,
a
you
way
have-
that you guys can balance that out so there are people who can go there and just feel like I just want to do this. I just want to try it. And not
Right, you
feel
want
like
you
I-
want programs at different levels. You want the really introductory, basic, get your feel for it, and then you want more upper level classes to be available, and then you want to bring in people who are really great in, let's say, metal work, to do a really sort of a high-end workshop, for a couple of days over a weekend, so you can really serve multiple communities. And we have all those communities here in Stillwater, and I would like to be a part of making more art available to everyone.
I know one of the concerns has been there may not be as many crafts offered. Can you address that?
I am not anti-craft. I'm not going to say that. I don't have anything like personal burning issues with craft, and I'm happy to, if we want to do felting, if we want to do yarn craft, fiber arts. These all come under that umbrella of arts and crafts, and that's actually really why I do like this studio model, the studio center model at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, because it's an art and crafts center.
Okay, thank you.
Rebecca, could you say just one more thing about the advisory board?
Sure.
You would have an advisory board that anybody could volunteer to be chosen to be on?
Our suggestion would be that since you would be our bosses, and the contract agreement would be with you, that we would work out a membership or a selection where the council might appoint a number of people. The university might appoint a couple of people. We might ask the superintendent of instruction to give us some names. And it could, anybody that we think could help provide top-down oversight and help
input.
input and vision for what we do, so that we can better get a grasp on what the community wants.
And I should say, again, with 3 children in the Stillwater Public Schools, I am really concerned and committed to supporting our teachers and supporting our public art programs. And I've started reaching out to those teachers to set up meetings, to get their insights on how, if OSU were to take over the management of the facility, how we can support them.
My advice would be, I think a small advisory board would be better than large, just so that you could have sort of an executive input as opposed to, a community group. But, yeah, I think it'd be very valuable, and we've talked about having an advisory board so that we all stay connected and we get views of how we're doing.
I mean, I'm a really good listener, and I really do want to hear from a really broad spectrum of the community.
Okay. More questions?
So I asked some pointed questions to Mr. Smolin. I'm going to ask you some pointed questions, if that's okay. You guys, OSU, and you individually understand how we feel about this center, right? This is a City of Stillwater facility, and it's a facility that we want to see operated to the benefit of the entire community in the City of Stillwater.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Is that also the way you feel about it?
My vision as well.
If OSU wanted to turn that into something else, like an extension of the art department, we would have approached the city to buy the thing and then turn it into.
Do you have a bid?
No.
Kidding. That was totally a joke.
We totally.
I should not joke up here. I'm sorry.
We totally embrace the idea of having a community art center.
Right.
This gives, I'll just say it, a laboratory for the university, the art department, other departments to come in and do outreach and service in the community and do what we're trained to do.
Right. And I should also mention, I've already applied for 2 grants to help support multi-arts. So.
Well, that.
At the end of our term of 3 years, if we haven't done that, you should fire us.
Well, my understanding from the contract is even before the end of your term, that if we don't feel like you're doing that, we're going to come and say, hey, you guys aren't fulfilling that mission. Is that your understanding of the contract as well?
Yes.
So on that question of grants and funding, right, we're taking a facility that, has been subsidized $60,000 and hasn't, recently has been making a profit. But how are you guys going to take this facility? I mean, I don't know your finances, but I know that I hear a lot about how the university doesn't have a lot of money, just like the city doesn't have a lot of money. And I don't necessarily need the details, but
We're dead broke.
are we going to end up in a situation? Are we going to end up in a situation where, 2 years into this, you guys are saying, well, we didn't really get the funding we were hoping to get, and we don't really have anything, and so, here you go. Here's your facility back.
Okay, part of this is negotiation between Rebecca and I, so I'm not willing to lay all my cards on the table this year. But we've had extensive conversation about what it would take to prop up the facility to get it running until she's able to generate membership, revenues from activities, grant dollars. And so we're going to have to underpin them for that period of 3 years. It could be at the end of a period of time, we find we can't do it and we won't want to do it anymore. But I believe we can do it, and it's worth us putting university dollars to make it go, because it will give us a great venue for our students to volunteer and actually work, as well as our faculty. So
And
we
the
can
community.
justify
I
this
mean,
as part
don't
of our
forget.
state mission. But as far as why would we manage it,
Right.
Yeah.
it's a connection to our mission.
Right.
That's helpful, because I do have that same question, and I've heard the question from a lot of people in the community, which is, what does OSU want with this? I mean, they got to have an ulterior motive, right?
Okay.
And
Thank you for saying that.
I've heard that a lot.
Thank you.
And
It's just this. We look as a university for ways we can partner with the city on something that benefits not only the city, but also the university, sort of like the American Airlines deal. Why would we put money on the table? Well, because the OSU community benefits from that airline service, just like the community does. This looked like an obvious way we could come in and support the city and provide an outreach mission for the university and give us a win-win. People think OSU doesn't do anything for the community, so every time we can find one that looks like it makes sense for our mission, would benefit the city, I'm motivated to jump in there and try to help.
Simple as that. That's the ulterior motive.
Right. And I want to roll this money back into the center, right? My mission is to make it as successful as possible. And I'm committed
And
to
so
that.
the contract with OSU would be 3 years. And the contract with the Friends of Multi-Arts is 5 years. Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's what they proposed, yes.
Okay. And termination, if anything were to happen, you have 60 days, OSU. Friends of Multi-Arts, 180 days. You pay the $60,000 that we don't pay you
We're
anything.
not asking the city.
You're not asking
Board
anything.
operations.
We're donating my time as an administrator, and we're donating money to the facility, so.
More questions? Thank you.
Bet.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start off the discussion. We've had our discussion, but I just want, a few points I want to make that I just feel are really important. Everybody here tonight who expressed whatever they expressed, they're part of the community. We're all part of the same community. We may not all agree on everything, but we're not a community divided. Stillwater's a community united. And I hope whatever decision is made, that everybody comes together around this, just like we do so many other things, to make this the best thing we can make. We appreciate, or I will speak for us, I hope I'm speaking for everybody. We appreciate this passion. This is what makes Stillwater, Stillwater. And so I hope each one of you who wrote us, called us, emailed us, found us on the streets, that you continue that passion. And we appreciate hearing your input. We need more involvement from people who are passionate. And it doesn't all have to be involvement in multi-arts. All over the city, we need people like you. So we really appreciate all of the input. All 5 of us were elected, and we all have a job responsibility. And when we were elected, we promised that we would oversee the budget, that we'd be fiscally responsible. That's one of our jobs, to be fiscally responsible. Not always easy. Well, actually, it's always tough. And to make decisions that benefit the community. So sometimes those go together, sometimes they don't. But fiscal responsibility, it's the taxpayers' money. We have to spend it responsibly. We want a contract that advances what we already have, not that promises to get where we were already supposed to be. And we have to look at all of the facts to make the best decision. Partnerships are a good thing, and this is another one of those good things. It's just how we go about the management of it. So that's my 2 cents. I'll let someone else go. Or I said everything for everybody.
No, oh no, we're not going to let you get away with that. I would like to voice support for an excellent multi-art center in Stillwater, not for any one entity. I do, any of you who know me know that I'm really a townie, capital T, and Mr. Weaver probably knows that better than others. I am kind of do give him a hard time. And it dawned on me in the middle of all this discussion and the emails, and by the way, I happen to live about a couple of houses away from your very, very most vocal, strongest supporter. I can't do anything without hearing about what we ought to do with multi-arts, and that is, well, I'll hear about it for the rest of my life, I'm sure. I am a townie, and I've always been frustrated that, I'll just be straightforward. I've always been frustrated that I didn't think Stillwater treated us like we had any kind of sense as a city. And it dawned on me that my half of this is treating OSU community like citizens. And I think when I heard Rebecca talk about why this piqued her interest, she's a mother with children in the school system here. She lives here in Stillwater. She is a citizen. I was struck by one of the speakers who went through all the different organizations that we have in Stillwater: Friends of the Library, Sherrar, Community Center, just community band, community singers. There wasn't one mention of an OSU, that organization. That is half of our population. Half of the population in Stillwater we tend to ignore. And this, to me, seems like a wonderful way to bring students, faculty, staff into the city. I had the wonderful opportunity to be at a landscape architecture class. Fabulous presentations. Those students, and I think if you would, students who come to Stillwater to go to OSU who aren't from Stillwater, if you ask them if they've been downtown, no, they don't even know where downtown is. We need these people involved in our activities. We need them involved, showing us the way they think, what they think the world could be, and they need to see us. They need to see us who have established wonderful multi-arts centers, wonderful community singers groups. We cannot do anything well by ourselves. And by ignoring half of our population, we are just cutting off both legs. And it's hard enough without one.
I was thinking about this tonight. It's really not about us and them. It shouldn't be. It's not us and them, it's we. It's we. We're all in this together. So I appreciate what you said.
I'll ditto what Vice Mayor said and the mayor, and I'll just say I grew up going to the Multi-Graphics Center on Couch. That's why I grew up in Stillwater. That's where I went to. And so to me, really it's about making sure that that continues on and that for generations to come, people have the wonderful sentence of saying, I participated in something that was part of the multi-arts program in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and this is what I gained from it. And so for me, it's about making sure that it's the right entity managing it and moving it forward. And so I'll just stop there.
I don't have a lot to add. I think you guys are all right in line with my thoughts on it. I think the big thing being, this, in a lot of the comments I've gotten, and I've gotten a lot of email on both sides of this. I've gotten email that is staunchly, it has to stay with the Friends. I've gotten email that it is staunchly, it has to go to OSU. And then I've gotten the ones in the middle, which are, we want this facility to serve the Stillwater community. And that's kind of where I am on this as well. I mean, I think, I think both, the Friends and the OSU folks that support either side have that same idea. And they've decided there's only one way to do that. But this idea that we are all, this is not a community of Stillwater and then a community of OSU. These are communities that work together, that should serve together. I completely understand frustration or feelings that people have from the city side, like you said, Councilor Dillington, that it's not always maybe felt like it's a relationship that the city has gotten the benefit of the doubt from the university all the time. I don't think that's a reason to abandon our efforts to try. I think that what we've heard tonight from the folks at OSU in terms of their expectations and what they're trying to do with this facility, we should be jumping up and down and applauding as a community that the university has that desire to use its resources and use the expertise of its faculty to better our community as a whole, not just a piece of it, not just their students, not just citizens, all of us, the whole community of Stillwater. And I think for us to not take that opportunity and say, let's see if we can make this work, and say, let's get a great example of that out there, so maybe there's other opportunities of it in the future. It makes too much sense to me to not move forward with that direction.
So to close out the circle, I guess, so to speak, thought long and hard about this the last couple of weeks especially. And I'll say that personally, I am 100% in favor of the OSU proposal. To me, personally, it does not make any sense not to proceed with this. I can understand, like Councilor Joyce said, the trepidation about ulterior motives and where OSU's goals lie. I personally don't share those concerns, but I can understand where they come from. The problem I have with this is the number of people I've talked to in terms of constituents that are against this proposal. I sit up here as a voice of the people. I serve at the behest of the public. This is not my decision. This is not a personal decision that I make. It is not my responsibility to decide things based on the way I think they should be done. It is my job to sit up here and act as a voice of the people. And in speaking to the public, especially in the last couple of weeks, it became abundantly clear that the overwhelming public consensus was to continue the relationship with the Friends of Multi-Arts as it stands now. I will say, echoing Mayor Noble's comments, that it is our responsibility as well to act in a manner that is responsible. I do not think that the Friends of Multi-Arts has shown themselves to be, how do I say this, worthy of a 5-year contract. I think that is akin to, well, I'll say that I don't agree with a 5-year extension based on what I've seen in the past and the way that not only funds have been mismanaged, but management in general. I would be more for, in trying to find that line between responsibility and serving at the behest of the public, a proposal of 1 to 2 years, 2 years being the maximum that I would consider. But this has made it, in a way, an easier decision for me to sit up here and say that in the interest of serving the people, I have had an overwhelming response to continue community control, as it were, of the Multi-Arts Center, more in a fashion with the Friends of Multi-Arts versus OSU. Again, I will say for the public record that personally, I am for a partnership with OSU. I think that makes wonderful sense. However, I also have to speak for the people that are passionate about this center and utilize this center, and overwhelmingly the response to me has been that they want to continue management and control in the Friends, in the hands of the Friends of Multi-Arts. So based on that, I would be for an amendment to the current proposal by Friends, because I think 5 years, for lack of a better term, I don't think that has been earned at this point, but I would entertain an amendment to that. So, and that's kind of where I'll leave it right now.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I'm not sure what the correct motion is, but I would assume it's to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with OSU for facilities management. Then I'm going to move that then.
Second.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second to approve the OSU contract. Please vote. With a vote of 4-1, OSU we will enter into a contract with OSU for the Multi-Arts. Okay, that moves us to presentation of information to facilitate council's initiatives for Block 34, CC-17-51. Mr.
Mayor.
McNichol. Oh.
Mayor, I prepared a report on this following last week's meeting, and based on all the discussion, there's been a lot of discussion about Block 34, although it's a very eloquent report, I think. I'm going to read just a portion of it because it summarizes where I think the...
Is it so eloquent?
It summarizes where I think the council is, and then we can just visit. But following council's discussion on Block 34 on April 3rd, 2017, staff believes it is council's goal to have sales tax generating elements along with public amenities consisting of permanent and short-term sales tax generating business areas, restrooms, green space, play area, and an entertainment venue on Block 34. Staff believes there is consensus on those features. If we're wrong about that, this falls apart at this point. Okay. Also, a desire was expressed to have this plan meet the goals of the 2005 PUMA plan to incorporate streetscapes and sidewalks into a larger overall plan for downtown. There is also a desire to implement sales tax generating element in the near future. Unanswered questions regarding the development include specific plans for locating each element and how much space to allocate to sales tax generating areas. And then the entire discussion turns around the fact, and is complicated by the current financial condition of the city's general fund. There are no near-term prospects for city financing for the additional elements. Studies of markets in the United States indicate that the venture most probable to provide sales tax generating business in this location would be hospitality related, such as a coffee shop, breakfast establishment, a beer garden, a fast casual restaurant, or all three. These businesses with early morning to late evening hours and both indoor and outdoor seating could draw customers to the area and provide year-round continuous use. And those factors led me to recommend hiring an architect to accomplish several aspects of moving this project to reality. And the advantages of an architect are simply that they have the ability to do the space allocation. They can do site plans based on, and I know we have a lot of them, we have site plans based on where the sun is at any particular time of day, and things that I've learned in being involved in other projects where architects are involved that we just don't think about as lay people. And in an effort to move that along and give you an answer on what that would cost, having worked with a gentleman on another volunteer project called Mr. Gary Sparks in Tulsa, and he is a very well-respected architect in Oklahoma. He's done a lot of work here in Stillwater, and he said, I'd kind of like to come and take a look at that. So last Wednesday, Mr. Sparks came here, John McClenny and I went down to Block 34. He walked around, took pictures. We showed him voluminous amounts of material that we have on this block. And we have made that all available to him electronically. And it was going to be my recommendation that you allow us to engage an architect. I will just cut to the chase and say that he has agreed to provide preliminary site plans and space allocation pro bono.
Deal. Oh.
Okay.
Could have started with that.
Yeah.
Actually, he has already started. I took some liberty on behalf of the council. He has already started and may have some drawings by the end of this week, some preliminary drawings. But following that point, once we have something that everyone's looked at and says, we buy off on this, then we can get into the business of doing an RFP to try to entice another establishment or establishments to locate in that area according to the plan that he comes up with. So that is my recommendation to council at this time, and obviously we would come back to you when we have what we think is finalized drawing. And I will tell you, just and John could weigh in on this if he wanted to, but I will tell you in just a few minutes visit, well, some time of a visit with Mr. Sparks on site, I think you will probably see something arranged differently than you've seen in the past, because he's already saying, oh, you can't put it there because of the sun, this, and all kinds of things. So you may see something different.
That's the direction we need, though, is to have that kind of expert looking at it and giving us suggestions.
For free.
For free.
And if Councilor Darlington comes up with plans that the students voluntarily did, and those, we'll forward those to him as well. But we made absolutely everything that we know of available to him. Had to do it on the cloud because there's so much information. But he has that link and is working away, and was actually excited about the project and said that he was looking to the south. And he said, who owns that? And I said, well, there's a number of people that own that, but he said they will be favorably set if this project goes into place. So he expects residential development to the south, that area, in not too distant time, assuming we can pull this off. I will also tell you that in this report, I've been told, at least by 2 citizens, that they are willing to fundraise. I know that the city's not in good financial condition right now. It may be a while before we could participate, but there are people willing to fundraise for specific elements of that the council has agreed on, and I would also like to tell them, go.
Deal.
Okay.
Yeah, deal.
Second.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
That was a motion. Is there a motion?
Well, I do hope that I've been negotiating with the faculty person who had the class, and Ann Houston, got to see those presentations also. It was really a long night, but it was so well worth it. These undergraduate students just really blew me away. Every single project had a different idea that would be really manageable and not that expensive, I think. I would, I know this isn't part of the resolution, but you did provide staff with further direction. One of the things that really struck me in the presentations, and also Councilor Joyce brought it up at our last discussion, that talking about Block 34 in isolation is not useful. And so it just happens, I do have a reputation for bringing Mr. McNichol articles from the Tulsa World. So I brought him an article tonight. The Gathering Place just hired a leadership team. They had 600 applicants for 4 positions for this leadership team. Now they're paying these people. But, and I think that, some type, I would like for us to develop some type of a leadership team or leadership group that would include the BPAC group. We're talking about making, maybe the Duck Street south of 6th to 12th. You can use paint and you can use temporary signs, but make it a really cool entrance to 8th Street to go to Block 34, to go to Main Street, vice versa. And I think BPAC group would have some really creative ideas on that. I think having a retail group of people, retail residential maybe together or separate, group of people who can identify, as we brought up at our last talk, 50,000 square feet of empty property on Main Street. What do we want to see in these places, and how do we encourage the people who own these empty spaces to move them? And then the third group, or fourth, if you divide residential and retail, cultural group. This western part of downtown is the cultural alley or section, the library, the Schrar Center, OSU Art Museum, community center, those people getting together and saying, how do we make this, I mean, again, it's more than just opening the doors. We have to have planning and event planning and tying all of these activities, multi-arts included, all together into, the place where we live and play and gather. So that I would like to see us moving forward fairly quickly on getting those groups to help us, if everyone agrees.
I think that's a great idea. And it involves passionate citizens, which is
just what we need.
What we need, yes. So do we make, is there a motion?
To adopt the city manager's recommendation number 1? Is that what we?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion.
Motion to accept.
Yeah.
And we have a motion and a second.
Mhm.
Please vote.
I would also point out that
We already voted.
I know, but I did not say this when I gave the report. We also asked him to look at incorporating portable buildings or storage containers or temporary structures for retail as well, if that were a desired option, because there was a lot of discussion about that. So we tried to hit all of the different things. And
We appreciate that he has volunteered to do this.
Oh, it was
Really, we
awesome.
are
Really
so
nice.
thankful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sparks. Thank you. And with a vote of 5-0, that passed.
Thank you.
That takes us to resolutions. Resolution number CC-2017-6, a resolution authorizing execution of an amended project agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation to widen and resurface US 177 from McElroy Road, extending north 1 mile to Lakeview Road within the city limits of Stillwater, Oklahoma. Councilors, discussion?
No.
All right.
Motion.
Do we have a motion to accept Resolution 2017-6?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution number CC-2017-6. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, CC-2017-6 is approved. That takes us to ordinances. Mr. Dorman on first reading.
Ordinance number 3363, an ordinance amending a planned unit development and rezoning tracts of land located at 1 Arbor Circle and 55 to 99 Arbor Circle from O Office to RT Residential 1 and 2 Family District.
Discussion?
Motion to advance the second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to advance ordinance number 3363 to second reading. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, ordinance number 3363 is advanced to second reading. On second reading, Mr. Dorman.
Ordinance number 3362, an ordinance rezoning a tract of land located at 821 North Duck Street from O Office District and RT Residential 1 and 2 Family District to CG Commercial General District.
Discussion.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 3362. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, ordinance number 3362 is adopted. That takes us to reports from officers and boards. Mr. Dorman.
One item, request an executive session pursuant to 25 OS subsection 307B2 to discuss labor negotiations with Fraternal Order of Police Lodge number 102.
Mr. McNichol.
Yes, ma'am. And we had a brief discussion earlier about the city budget and how difficult it is to read and those kinds of things. And I want you to know that a lot of that is because of the Government Finance Officers Association. It's supposed to keep us public folks in line because money moves around in budgets and has to be shown in different places, and I get that. Speaking of the GFOA, and this is a big deal, for the 35th year in a row, the City of Stillwater has been awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association of the U.S., and Canada. The award is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. The CAFR was judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, and this attainment represents a significant accomplishment by government and its management. Congratulations to CFO Melissa Reams and everyone on the finance department team. We appreciate it.
Congratulations, and thank you for your hard work. Counselors, do you have any news?
Well, this Friday is the First Friday's Food Trucks and Tunes event it's April 21st from 6 to 10 p.m. at the intersection of 8th Avenue and Duncan Street. Live music by Good Company and the Val Gladden Band will be playing all night.
All night? All night? Oh.
Are we supposed to have good weather? Does anyone know?
Friday night, it's iffy.
50-50.
Okay, so it's going to be good then.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And if you're going to be there all night, you'll already be ready to be, you would have been at the Friends of the Library Spring Book Sale. It starts Thursday. You could go to this library and then go.
do that,
yeah.
yes.
Mhm. Thousands of books, DVDs, and audios will be available at a discounted rate. Proceeds are used to purchase books and equipment and to fund programming and online services for all ages at the library. It's a great deal. Do we get sales tax from that?
Pardon? Do we what?
We do not. Counselor Joyce, I'm just going
Yes,
to
ma'am.
segue straight over.
If you'd like to help keep our community beautiful, registration is still open to volunteer for the annual Stillwater Trash Off. The event takes place Saturday, April 28th from 9 a.m. to noon. The city will provide work gloves, safety vest, and trash bags. Please volunteer, or volunteers should RSVP by April 21st. We did this last year as a company. We had a little team of families and kids from InterWorks that went out and picked up trash at Couch Park. It was a great event. I don't know how many bags, I don't know if anybody here knows, but there were bags and bags and bags of trash that people picked up.
What an
and brought
immediate
out.
way to see improve the look of Stillwater. I mean,
Yeah, big, very helpful.
And we appreciate that, I'll just say, the Greek community at OSU, I know they participate in this in a big way. So there are students who call us home and help us pick up. So we much appreciate the students.
And finally, the 40th Annual Stillwater Arts Festival will begin at 10 a.m. on Saturday, April 22nd, and continue this Sunday, April 23rd from 11 to 5. So come out and enjoy live entertainment, artist demonstrations, and children's activity. And details and complete list of the entertainment lineup are on stillwater.org. And I will say, we did this last year, and it was a blast.
It's a blast.
We went on Saturday. We didn't do both days, but it was a lot of fun. And whoever's selling the salsa this year, whoever was selling it last year, I'm going to find them again, because they've got some excellent salsa out there. Just throw that out there as a plug.
It is such a fun time.
and I want to remind counselor hours, we're starting to do them in business locations because we want to make it easier for the citizens to attend because we want to have their input. So the first one we're going to do is at Meridian Technology Center, Friday, April 28th from 11:30 to 1 in our Skywalk area, which is that bridge across. Great snack bar, great lunch, grab something to eat and come talk with myself and Norman, I think, is going to be there, and I don't know who else.
I am.
Vice Mayor Darlington. So come talk with us.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to recess Stillwater City Council meeting and go to the Stillwater Utilities Authority. So I call the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting to order. And trustees on the consent docket, does anyone, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Stillwater Utilities Authority consent docket. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, the trustees have approved the consent docket for Stillwater Utilities Authority. That takes us to general orders. Mr. McNichol.
We have proposed amendment to the recyclable materials processing services agreement and associated rate increase to the residential waste collection rate structure. And Chris Knight will have that report.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, Mr. McNichol. Chris Knight, Waste Management Manager. I'd like to go over the proposed amendments of the Recyclable Materials Processing Service Agreement and answer any questions you have, but I'd like to real quickly, I know it's been a long evening for you, go from the start of the recycling program and to where we are now and kind of some of the things that we've been going through to get us to this point. In 2012, we started the recycling program with a pilot program. In that pilot program, 40% of the 3,000 residential customers requested a recycling cart. The material was very clean, and the customers with recycling carts put them out every week. The 40% from the pilot program is what we used to design the program for the full implementation of the city. We based how many carts we were going to purchase, if we needed to hire additional personnel, and we hired one, if we needed to buy any more equipment, and we bought one truck. We designed the program so that 2 trucks could collect the recyclables citywide. You fast forward to today, 90% of all the residential customers have a recycling cart citywide. On each collection day, 80% of the recycling carts are set out. It takes 5 trucks to service the recycling carts in each collection area each day. With the 90% of the residential customers having a recycling cart, an 80% set-out rate, and not being asked by our current processor to dispose of any residuals, which was the key indicator that was placed in the current contract to let staff know if we had an issue. If we were hauling a lot of residuals and if it would get over 25%, for example, we would know we'd have a little bit of issue and we would start researching that. And until recently, that never happened.
What's a residual?
Non-recyclable material, things that are not in our program. So in February 2016, the owner of Cedar Creek Farms approached staff about making changes to the city code that would require all recyclable materials generated within city limits to be delivered to his recyclable materials facility. This, in February 2016, was the start of the first time that the Waste Management Department was asked to start hauling of some of the residuals, and it was just occasionally. As time went on, the request changed from amendments to the city code to amendments to the Recyclable Materials Processing Agreement. Staff has been meeting with the owner, Mr. Wells, since September discussing changes to the agreement. However, we were reluctant to make some of the compensation changes he was requesting due to not be able to confirm what the problem. Why were we starting to haul more? During this time we were meeting with Mr. Wells, the Waste Management Department began to be requested to dispose of residuals from the curbside recycling program on a frequent basis. This led staff to have a third-party audit performed of our recycling stream. On March 6th, an audit was performed by Mr. Murph in Tulsa. The audit consisted of recyclable material from each of our 5 collection areas. The audit report revealed that 41% of the material was non-recyclable material, and a large amount being household trash. Once staff reviewed the audit report, we began coming up with options to not only save but retool the recycling program. Which brings me to the amendments staff is proposing to the Recyclable Materials Processing Service Agreement. Those amendments are amend the compensation section of the agreement to increase the materials processing charge. The current charge is $20 a ton. The requested change would increase the charge to range from $29.33 per ton to $70 per ton, depending on the percentage of residuals contained in the material. By the report, that's where we'd start, we would be paying $70 a ton. All the residuals that need to be hauled from the Cedar Creek's facility would be hauled by the SUA and at SUA's cost, which would add another additional $29.33 per ton to dispose of it in the landfill. Include an automatic escalator that would automatically increase charges up to 3% on an annual basis based on the change in the CPI. This is something that was requested by the owner. We have the same provision in our landfill contract. So if the CPI every year we look at the CPI, and if it goes up, the the disposal rate that we pay him would go up, but it can't go more than 3%. Establish a minimum guaranteed amount of cardboard of 60 tons to be delivered to Cedar Creek Farms on a monthly basis. And if the minimum is not met, the SUA would pay the index price for the difference. We approximately dispose of 40 tons of cardboard at Cedar Creek Farms. He requested this due to the current situation we're in. He is not getting a lot of good material to sell on the market. The market value of all the recyclables over the last 2.5 years has been not good. Cardboard is the one material that does hold a value. Even when the market's done, it goes down, but it's going to hold more value than most of the recyclables. So he believes that if the market stays in not a good situation, that until we can get our situation fixed, that will help fund his operation. The other two, and the last two here is really kind of the staff is recommending going forward, that we redefine the plastics accepted in the recycling program. We currently take 1 through 7s, but we're recommending we only accept 1, 2s, and 5s, plastic bottles or containers, excluding the plastic bags. This is because currently 3, 4, 6, and 7s currently have little to no value. So we would like to not accept those, to take those out of the stream and only accept things that do have a greater value. And then include an audit of the single stream recyclables to be conducted every 6 months by a third-party processor. We put this in place to have a audit conducted every 6 months by Mr. Murphy in Tulsa, and from that report, that would dictate the amount to pay for processing fees or disposal fees to Cedar Creek Farms. So if approved, and the next time we have an audit, if we can get that 41% down under 36%, we're now automatically paying 50-something per ton, and so on until we can get it down. Any questions?
A piece of this is that we have 5 more years on the agreement with CCF.
That is correct.
And during that time, you'll be doing a complete revamp of, or examination of the whole trash, recyclable, waste, everything?
Correct, yeah. The next 5 years, we hope to, our goal is to get it to 20%. The national average is 23% residuals. We hope to try to work very hard to get it down to the 20. But part of something we're proposing is, is start auditing the recycling carts. That's something we haven't done. So other cities have done that. City of Tulsa.
And I'm probably going to ask a very dumb question, so I'm just going to upfront. So when you say we need to break it down, does that mean, like you said, auditing what's being put in these receptacles so that we know, like
Correct.
3, 4s, and 7s we don't want, but we want the 2, 5s and...
Correct. To fix the problem, we're going to have to be, in my opinion, very aggressive. And we're going to have someone on the ground looking in carts, and we're going to have the information that we leave with the citizen explaining what was incorrect in their cart, what is correct to be in their cart, and we may even get to the point where we have to pull carts if the individual continues not to use them correctly. That's the only way. In an educational program, we need a very aggressive educational program. That's something since probably 2013, 2014, we really haven't done very well. But we need to be real aggressive with the educational program and consistent with it. Have someone on the ground looking in the carts. And I think that's really the only way we can fix the problem at this time.
And I think citizens will appreciate that. I know that if I were corrected, I wouldn't do it again if I found a sticker or something.
Well, there's a lot of things out there, especially on the plastics.
Right.
Yeah.
They're very confusing
It
people.
is.
And
It really is.
I'm already thinking, plastic bags. Is that a Ziploc bag? Is that a bread bag? Is that a
Yeah, and then the plastic bags.
grocery bag? Or
The main thing is those grocery bags. The Walmart bags, where those plastic bags, they're really bad. They're not good on the equipment. They clog up the equipment, and then they're a nuisance. They're flying all over the place, you know, and a lot of cities don't take the plastic bags anymore, so it's very common not to accept them.
So realistically, being more aggressive about enforcing this and also taking, making people sort plastic, what goes in and what goes out, is going to, I would assume, dramatically decrease our participation rate in recycling, right? I mean, a lot of people are going to go, well, shoot, if I have to work that hard to figure out what I got to recycle and what I don't, I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
I mean, do we have a...
Well, I will say, back to the pilot program, when we had 40% of the people only doing it, the 40% did it right.
Yeah.
And really, I think we're better. I mean, I want as many people to be in the recycling program as possible. But if we get, if it reduces down to 40 or 50%, and they're all doing it right,
that's better for
we're
everybody.
going to be in a better place as a city.
That was my concern. If we drop the rate of participation way down, is that going to cause problems for not getting enough material? But
no, because we'll have more of good material.
Okay.
Well, and I would hope that if it's very specific too, and you know exactly what to put in that trash, I mean, that's, but your point too. Well, it could be, Council Joyce.
Well, they create the issue, they put an emblem on everything on the plastic. You go to the store and there's an emblem on just about everything on the plastic, says 1 through 7. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's a market for it.
I didn't know that. So what?
Is there a rate increase involved here?
There would be, if the amendments are approved, yes. They're
like on my trash cart, what's the change?
What size do you have?
Yeah.
Big one. I got 4 kids.
Well, on a 96-gallon cart, your price would go up to $1.35 a month.
It's pretty reasonable.
And especially since there hasn't been a rate increase since 2013.
We have not had a rate increase.
We've been static for 4 years now.
Correct.
And your recycling card is free.
It's free.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's included in your rate.
Well.
I do believe that that's created a little bit of the issues too. Some customers that don't really have any desire to recycle, instead of pay money for additional trash cart that they need, they're just using the recycling cart instead. And we haven't had anything in place to stop it, so until that takes place, they'll just keep doing it.
Well, that'll be in your evaluation, won't it?
Correct. The rate increase that is proposed, if you approve the amendments to the contract, would cover the increase in disposal fees that it's going to cost us initially and for a little while, because it will take a little while to fix it. It's not, I'm not even sure if we can fix it, get it to a decent place in a year. It's going to take a little while, to be honest with you. I'm thinking if we go at it real hard, hopefully in 2 years, we can see some great progress.
I still think it's important to recycle and to help our earth, and so it's my last comment. Anybody else have one?
Well, yeah, I mean, people want the recycling program, right? I mean, there's a lot of people who say, oh, yeah, I want to be able to recycle, and I think part of the problem we're having is that the perceived value is so low, or the actual cost that it is to them is so low that they don't really value the service that we're providing there. So, it makes sense for us to say, hey, you guys, this is a good service. It's a valuable thing for us to be doing, but it costs money. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not free.
Recycling is.
Yeah.
It costs money to do the right thing.
It's $1.35 a month. It's just one extra water bottle you need to put in the trash, because that's about what it would cost.
Correct.
So-
And you bring up a good point, that recycling actually starts in the store and what you purchase. If you don't purchase the water bottle, for example, you don't have to go look to put it in a recycling container. So I'm definitely look at what you purchase in the store.
That should be part of the education piece you guys are doing.
Correct.
I think if
Yes,
you
sir.
just had elementary age children do this, we would probably
Oh my
be a lot
gosh, yeah,
better
they're-
if
they
they
are
would run this,
hardcore.
because
Right.
they are
convinced.
passionate about it. So maybe we think about that. And
Maybe
just
cheaper.
It would be cheaper, and they're hard workers.
some labor.
Mr. Dorman,
laws
is there
right
any
now.
labor laws that we need to be worried about?
Are they,
Might be a problem, but we can address that.
are they tall enough to look into the cart?
If they just,
Oh,
if
man,
they
did
just
you-
police their own parents.
Just neighborhood neighborhood recycling police?
Neighborhood recycling watch.
It could work.
Neighborhood
be vicious.
watch, yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. I'm thinking, so just,
Somebody-
those are some ideas.
Somebody
So
stop the recording.
we're going to start at the Joyce household
Yeah.
first, just test pilot. Okay, so is there a motion on this recommendation? SUA 17-09.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve SUA 17-09. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, that SUA 17-09 is approved. That takes us to resolutions. Resolution number SUA-4, a resolution amending the City of Stillwater residential waste collection rate structure. Is there a motion?
Yes, a motion to accept Resolution 2017-4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept Resolution 2017-4. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, Resolution 2017-4 is approved. That takes us to reports from officers and boards. General Counsel,
Nothing to report tonight, ma'am.
General Manager,
No items, ma'am.
trustees.
Oh, man.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please vote. And we are adjourned with the vote of 5-0. I will now reconvene the Stillwater City Council meeting. Do we have a motion and a second to move to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move to executive session. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, we are moving into executive session.